Heyo, everyone. Welcome in to the latest Get Tilted episode. I am a little off from my initial prediction. The Ravens are only up 14-3, but that's quite all right. Hang around, tune in, and we'll talk some DFS with everybody.
You're listening to Get Tilted, only on Fantasy Now Plus.
What's up, everyone? Again, welcome into another lovely episode of Get Tilted. I'm your host, Brian Rockwood, and with me, as always, is my fantastic partner, Tim Holstad. Tim, how are you today?
Didn't expect Mark Andrews to already have 2 touchdowns before halftime, so it's a regular Thursday night football, but I am doing well overall. It's crazy that we're more than halfway through the season already, so we're just chugging along.
Blink and you miss it, truly. And I know some folks are definitely staring down the barrel in their fantasy lineups. They're trying to figure out, how do I sneak in? Those dynasty folks are trying to figure out if I'm a pretender, am I a contender? Am I going to have to start rebuilding? Who am I selling? Oh, it's just a busy time in the fantasy world. And the grind never stops for DFS either. We have a main slate that is okay-ish. It seems like an interesting slate of games this week. But before we go too far in there, let's just quick shout out the Fins Talk Sports Network. Appreciate all their support on this. Without them, we wouldn't be here. So big props to them. Obviously, we're here at Fantasy Now Plus, where we got content every week, every day, doing our best to give you all the best fantasy information out there if you can. Join our Discord. We're always having a good time there, chatting up the games, doing start sits, waiver wire stuff, trade talk, you name it. Hop in, just join the conversation, and it's just a grand old time. As always, we're going to open up with our opening question. This one's by Tim, which I think is such a brilliant question, and we'll try to have to cut ourselves short because I think we can go on for quite a while. And that is, what DFS meta do you think will change or evolve over the second half of the season? And for those who don't, may not know the terminology, meta is just the overarching game within the game, as they call it. You're trying to win the game of DFS, but also trying to beat the larger pool. And there's things that come up that's called meta, as in a very popular strategy. So there's a few metas going on in DFS right now. Tim, I want to hear from you. What do you think will change, adjust, how we're going to adapt in the second half?
Yeah, I think for me, my prediction is that it's going to kind of be hard to go punt tight end the rest of the way. Every week it seems like we're adding another fun young option that can give you 15 to 30 points in a given week. We've got Bowers coming back. We've got McBride, who's been steady. George Kittle is healthy. We've got Tucker Kraft, who is emerging. Tyler Warren is emerging. We have Oronde Gadsden, who's emerging. We have Harold Fannin, who started out the year promising and has kind of just been steadily good. And we have a bunch of veterans that are always one injury away from being the first or second option on their team. You've got Dallas Goedert, Hunter Henry, Jake Ferguson. There's so many good tight ends, and it feels like this might be the first time in fantasy history where there's 12 to 18 tight ends any given week that you feel really good about playing, and they're probably all going to be expensive, maybe in the mid-range and the back end, but it's going to be hard to roll out, $2,800 Mason Taylor or $3,100 Cole Kmet. Punt tight end just feels gross right now, and I don't really see a way that it's going to be very usable moving forward because there's just so many high scores that are coming from the tight end position this year.
Yeah, it's and you can feel it in DFS truly. When you try to punt tight end, you're hoping for games like AJ Barner where he had 2 touchdowns and like 3 catches.
Yeah.
Like you're really relying on kind of, I'll call it the old fashioned style of tight end, and that doesn't really mesh well with the NFL anymore. They want to get the tight end involved. They really want the tight end to be a threat. And when you play it in DFS, we have to adjust for that, and you have to kind of follow what the NFL does. Like trying to punt on the Pat Freiermuth 3 touchdown game that is just probably more like 80% chance it's just going to be a 0.
Yeah.
Like I don't really think this is generally a successful strategy as much as it used to be. And I think this is a kind of a really accurate call considering looking at a lot of the tight ends, earlier in the season, at least you can go towards like 3,500, 3,400 and find someone relevant.
Yeah.
It drops off a cliff. Like you have to pay like $40, $42, $4,300 for something to actually score you points.
Yep.
And the cascading effect of that obviously means you're losing value across the list. So
yep.
It's fascinating. It's going to be something really interesting to track as you continue on like in this back half, especially with, like you said, injuries, fatigue, just like overall, just the grind of the NFL season. Tight ends can do a little bit more because they're not as widely used typically, but they are going like that's even changing. Like I feel like my past sentence is kind of just a lie. like they are getting work. They are getting so it's tough. It's going to be really, really curious to watch.
Yeah. And we probably are going to start seeing more, optimizer software, more projection software recommending 2 tight end builds in DFS. I mean, we'll get into it later, but there's 6 or 7 tight ends between 5,700 and 4,800 this week that if you put them up against their wide receiver and running back counterparts at the same cost, you can see a higher ceiling for these tight ends than you can for any of the position players.
And and we're going to have to make decisions, and it's going to get a little harder every week.
Yep.
My answer to this question is that it'll soon be untenable to roster Jonathan Taylor. And I hate to say it, but at one point, everyone's got a price. The fact that Jonathan Taylor's at 9,800 this week is a big old red flag, and it's kind of now more of a gamble than it. Even last week at, I think it was 90.95. That, oddly enough, that $300 ends up meaning a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when you kind of finish your roster, you're sitting there, you're like, oh man, I kind of wish I had, a few extra bucks to pick. I don't know. I want to pick something more relevant than Marvin Mims.
Yeah.
So at one point, and if he, and hopefully he doesn't, and hopefully he kind of calms out a bit, but maybe he does score 3 more touchdowns this week, right? We might see him at $10,000.
Yeah.
That's not playable at all. Yeah. Like that is 2 roster spots under one player, and that's just not going to happen for DFS.
Yeah. He has to score enough for 2 players to even return the value, and then you're asking him to give you above value, and it's a hard ask. I don't know if it's going to slow down. I mean, he's on insane pacing. Do you know how many touchdowns Saquon scored last year?
I want to say 16. I feel like he was close.
Yeah, I think it was 14 or 15.
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor has 13 touchdowns this season already.
Wait, that's not real. That can't be.
Real. And that's with him getting vultured 3 times in week 1 by Daniel Jones.
I knew it. I knew Daniel Jones was good for nothing. Stealer of history.
Like, he is blowing Saquon's pace from last year just out of the water. He's on like LaDainian Tomlinson levels of scoring at the rate he's going.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong again. Maybe I'm like maybe it is just worth it, right? But truly,
yeah,
it can't, right? Just like because he's a human, I think he is. He might be a superhero at this point.
That's kind of the hard part, is like he's not doing it the same way that a LaDainian Tomlinson would do it. You know, there is pass catching, but it's still not. It's not Christian McCaffrey levels. It's not Bijan Robinson levels. It's an average RB1 type of receiving work. It's all breaking the big plays and scoring touchdowns, just like Saquon did. He just doesn't have Jalen Hurts there to vulture him, and he's breaking even more big plays per game than Saquon was. So it's kind of a play on, he can't keep getting away with this, and so far he has been, and the offense doesn't look like it's slowing down. So, you know, it really depends how much more they feel like they can raise the price. Like, you know, 10,000 flat, like, gross, but if it's in a good matchup, I'll probably play it. If we're going to 10, 5, 11, like, I'm out.
Right. And for what it's worth, if you're paying 9,800 for Jonathan Taylor, he scores 2 touchdowns. Are you happy with that price? Like maybe he goes like 75 and 2. So it's like 20 fantasy points.
I mean, you're not unhappy with it, but you're not winning with it either. You're probably min cashing.
And I guess if you're doing that, I mean, like I guess in cash play, and we are probably now thinking about even more like larger scheme things where, like, you know, is he actually just fine still in cash, or is he and like completely unplayable in tournaments? Maybe. Is he now just a actually contrarian play where he's so expensive that no one tournament would possibly fathom trying to play Jonathan Taylor? All of a sudden, you're like, I don't know, maybe. But
it kind of feels like it. Yeah, it feels like it this week. Like, you know, everyone wants CMC for 1,000 less. Everyone wants Jahmyr Gibbs. Everyone wants Bijan. The ownership so far looks like it's going that way. There's not as much ownership to JT, so it could be a week by week, case by case. Like, I'm just gonna stomach it this week versus I'm just gonna, if he kills me, he kills me. But it's just hard to make a lineup otherwise. So,
JT, what are we gonna do? How do we handle you? Yeah, going forward, it's gonna be a tough click each and every week. All right, before we hop into our next segment, we do have a quick question. This is from Bob. Juwan Jennings, Cortland Sutton, Keenan Allen, or Jacoby Myers in PPR, pick one. Now, this actually kind of works with our DFS show a little bit better because, you know, in DraftKings, it's all point per reception scoring. So I'll ask it this way. So we have one. So you have one spot left. And I think, honestly, they're kind of all around the same price, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is actually kind of a really great, pertinent question that maybe not necessarily for DFS, but for their fantasy team.
I think Jennings is pretty cheap compared to the other three, if I remember correctly. He's still in like the low 4,000s, but I believe the rest of them are all in like the 55 to 6,500-ish range.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, Juwan Jennings 4,300, Jacoby 53, Keenan 56, and was it Cortland Sutton? Cortland Sutton should be a little higher too. No. Yeah, if 6,500.
He's my lead, but it's gross. It's a gross game environment against Houston. He probably gets Derek Stingley for a decent portion of that game, if not all of it. Bo Nix isn't really the type of quarterback that's just going to force it to Sutton. He's just going to find whoever's open, and, you know, they rode Troy Franklin last week. He could easily just do that again. But as far as upside, I also still think that Sutton has more upside than the other three as well. So I think I would go Sutton.
Yeah, I think conventional wisdom would just say pick the team's number one receiver. The issue with Keenan is just the fact that now Gadsden's there, right? Like another weapon on the Chargers makes it so hard to confidently play any of them.
Yep.
But you kind of have to if you're forced to. You know what I mean? So like if it's Keenan Allen or like I'll say like Kayshon Boutte maybe, you know, I'm probably still playing Allen despite the coin flip that is Kayshon Boutte. In this scenario, like Jawan Jennings, how many is his ribs all healed yet? Still at 5 broken ribs.
He might have healed one of them so far.
All right, that's good. Hey, that's improvement. And then Jacoby Myers, I just don't touch. Like not even a little bit. Unfortunately, he's just unplayable because the Raiders' passing attack is unplayable outside of Brock Bowers. Even then, he's been pretty meh.
Yep.
So honestly, by default, it's going to be Sutton. I think for both of us. Really interesting question though, and when we look at it through like a DFS lens, I think it's still going to be. I mean, depends on the price, right? But I think it's probably going to be Sutton.
Yep.
Okay. Real quick, as always, as a reminder, we're going to be focusing on the main slate for Sunday. So that means our 1 o'clock and our 4 o'clock games if you're Eastern like I am. So that means we're missing out on the Baltimore Ravens and the Miami Dolphins who are playing tonight. We're going to be missing out on the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington Commanders who play Sunday night. And then on Monday, we lose our Dallas Cowboys. So we can't get our free 60 points on that game. But they're playing the Arizona Cardinals on Monday. We're also missing out on the New York Jets, which is, I guess, the perfect dart throw team. That's what we learned last week. Or the Cincinnati Bengals are the best funnel team of all time for getting points. The Philadelphia Eagles, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Cleveland Browns. They are all on bye. Back to our regularly scheduled games to attack. Here are our favorite games to find pieces in. Tim, why don't you start us off?
I really like this Colts and Steelers game. Obviously, more so on the Colts side. Their offense is just otherworldly at this point, and the Steelers' defense is low-key bad. They don't get pressure on the quarterback basically at all, which is pretty impressive because they have TJ Watt. They don't blitz a lot, and they play a lot of man coverage, so they kind of just sit there and let offenses do whatever they want to them, and I guess for some reason Mike Tomlin's fine with that. So on the Colts side, we just had this big, long discussion on Jonathan Taylor, but I do think he's a great play if you can make the salary work. Michael Pittman Jr. is 5,900. He's the wide receiver 7 on the year, by the way.
I'm sorry. Wait, he's
just consistently good all year, and he's never been priced like it, not once this season.
They hate the wide receivers. I don't think any of them outside of Tyler Warren has really been priced, I'll call it appropriately. So call that the JT effect.
But, I mean, Pittman, even with JT going off basically every game, Pittman just gets his. He has spike weeks. He has consistency. He has a good floor. I really like Pittman in this matchup. Obviously, Tyler Warren is always a good pick at the tight end position. Alec Pierce could be fun in this game. I believe Josh Downs is probably going to miss with injury again, but not a concussion this time. We'll see. He's kind of 50-50 at this point.
Just made out of glass.
Yeah. So, that's basically the entire Colts offense that feels good to play. And on the Steelers side, DK Metcalf is kind of secretly right behind Pittman in fantasy points. I think he's like top 10 or 12, something like that on the year. He, as we know, obviously has huge spike week potential. He can give you 2 touchdowns and 150 yards. Rodgers is peppering him with targets this season. They're going to have to throw to keep up with this Colts offense. Jaylen Warren's probably going to get a lot of passing work on top of whatever rushing they give him. I like a lot of pieces in this game. I don't think either defense is particularly going to shut down the other offense. So it feels like a high total, could be a 30-27 type of game.
I like that a lot. I do think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is who we thought they were when they gave up 30-something points to the Jets at the beginning of the season. I was just so mad that they forced 4 fumbles against the Patriots in week 2 or maybe week 3, and made me feel like a fool, thinking the Steelers defense was bad. And they went right back to proving me right. So I really enjoy that. Thank you, Pittsburgh Steelers, for making me feel good about myself.
Absolutely.
But your second game is the one I'm really interested in. I think this game's going to crush.
Yeah, I think this is everyone's game of the week. It's kind of honestly shocking that it's on an afternoon Sunday slate and not Sunday Night Football, but Chiefs at Bills. It's very similar to the other game. Like, who do you not play is more the question than who do you play. You play Mahomes, you play Rashi, you play Worthy if you need some savings but still want upside. Kelsey is projected for pretty high ownership. He's someone that I am not overly interested in. I think he's, just kind of, it's going to be random week to week whether he gets 8 targets or 2. There's a chance that Pacheco misses this game, which is going to open up a lot for the running backs. On the Bills side, Josh Allen is Josh Allen. James Cook is James Cook. And if you want to take a shot on Khalil Shakir or Dalton Kincaid, I think you can. They're not my favorite plays, but in a game environment like this, it's not necessarily a bad play either.
I just think if you wanted to stack Mahomes and Rice, there's no, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah.
And the fact that Rashee Rice almost had 3 touchdowns last week kind of speaks volumes to the fact that he is going to have these massive, massive boom games. As long as the game, as long as the Chiefs want to continue to, I'm going to say, prove everyone that they're not this boring offense anymore. And I think that's kind of what we saw against the Commanders, because they really tried to pour it on as much as they could, which is great for us DFS players. The Bills, do you think Keon Coleman's anything?
He's so bad. Yeah, Will and I on Dynasty and 30 after week 1 were just like, oh, Keon Coleman, maybe look into him. He's done nothing since then. Literally nothing. He can't get open. He can't separate. He doesn't catch the ball. He doesn't get thrown the ball that much. He's honestly just an absolute waste of a pick by the Bills.
In my short stint of trying to do a lot of rookie scouting and kind of, drafts, and I guess not analyzing, but trying to figure out who makes sense where and what picks, I didn't really have him as a first round grade. I think he was 33rd pick, so effectively our first round pick from the Bills. I didn't see it at all. He had a couple big flash. I know this is not really what we're doing here on the show, but we're in here. There was a couple big splash plays you saw with him at FSU, and that was it. I think he kind of disappeared a lot, and we're seeing that here as well in the NFL. He can do things. He is a tremendous athlete. He just doesn't have the skill set quite yet. He's also really young. I'm pretty sure he's still 22, maybe 23, young 23. So there's time for him to develop, Quentin Johnston-esque.
Yeah.
But on the Bills team specifically, I don't think it's going to happen.
No. I mean, if it does, are you really going to get 2 touchdowns and 120 yards from him? That's so unlikely. You're probably going to get 1 touchdown and 38 yards on 1 catch.
Yeah, or one, truly, from last week, it's the same D-Hop line. That's his trajectory, just 1 catch, 35 yards, touchdown. All right, a couple more games that I'm interested in, and I'm surprised you didn't say this, but Chicago, Cincinnati, because you got to the dock before I did, so you had first grabs of the games. But yeah, Chicago heading to the jungle in Cincinnati. I just know that the Bengals will produce once again, and whether it be Jake Browning or Joe Flacco, and I pray it's not Jake Browning. It's gonna be just fantasy goodness, at least for the Bears, at the very least.
Yeah,
in my mind, I don't think they can replicate another dud like they did last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, all of their players are injured in practice this week. They basically all missed on Wednesday, and they were all limited on Thursday, besides Burden, who's missed again. So Burden's definitely going to miss with the concussion. On paper, it screams to play, and I'm going to, but also there's just this little voice in the back of my head that's just like, the Bears kind of suck sometimes, and like, this is absolutely a game where they could just come out and be flat and give you 17 points on offense despite playing the Bengals. And like, I'm not gonna play my DFS slate like that's going to happen, but it is just kind of lingering there of like, ugh, these are two bad teams that can very well just not execute any given Sunday, and they could both not execute in the same game, and suddenly you've just got a dead lineup.
And I want to believe that Ben Johnson won't let that happen. Yeah. To me, he is, under that Dan Campbell, tutelage, just to fire up the team and make sure we're coming out hot. And we got, I'm not going to call it really embarrassed, but they lost a winnable game against a third string QB, 2.5-ish string QB, Tyler Huntley, Snoop Huntley, sorry, was all-star QB, has been on the Ravens forever, so he's known that system forever, so it's not too bad. For what it's worth, last time they got blown out, I'll call it, they then faced the Dallas Cowboys, and then Caleb Williams did throw his 4 touchdown. Rome had, was that Luther Burden had 101 yards? What? Well, he's not going to be there. So for what it's worth, this team does bounce back, and luckily they're back against a really bad defense. So here's to hoping.
That's pretty convincing to me, honestly. I like patterns.
We're both just low-key math guys. Sometimes just like seeing the same things over and over. It makes projecting easy, right?
Yeah.
The last game I want to talk about, and it'll be real quick because we are somehow already halfway through here. The Chargers at the Titans. LA heads to Nashville. This is just me saying I just love the Chargers offense against a stumbling Tennessee organization, both sides of the ball, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Cam Ward didn't look awful, last week. I mean, it's when you're looking at like pretty dang bad, and then you play a little better than that, I guess we give you a little praise. But overall, I'm just more excited about the Chargers passing attack. Honestly, Kamani Vidal has been so incredibly great. Now he's priced a little more accurately like other starting running backs, which is a bummer. But Herbert, Gadsden, Ladd, Keenan, even QJ, if you really want to gamble on a deep shot, I think all of these players have merit in playing this week.
Yeah, I even think that Tajay Spears is pretty interesting, especially if Pollard misses the game. One of Chimere DK or Alec Ayamanor is going to be underpriced because one of them has to catch the ball. Last couple of weeks it's been DK. The weeks before that it was Ayamanor. Take your shot. They're both under 4K. One of them is a pretty solid bring back, especially with how scarce savings feels this week.
And truly, I think that offense is also trying to figure out their respective roles, who's going to be kind of the chain mover guy, who's going to be just a deep shot. And it kind of feels like they're taking turns. I feel like Chimere DK. I think they were saying on the broadcast.
Yeah,
it's up to you, DK. DK has that big playability. He is their punt returner or kick returner. So obviously they believe in him to be able to take it to the house anytime the ball is in his hands. Io Manor is just a bigger body, typical X receiver that they're still working through. He's pretty solid through the middle of the field too, so that's great for just football in general, which then brings to be pretty good for DFS. Yeah, like you said, take your shot. They're both cheap enough. They'll get you, if they get you 8, 9, 10 points, cool, great. And maybe they have touchdown upside because they are going to need to throw the ball a lot. Okay, it's time for chalk. Our top chalk plays. I'm going to go real quick on my first one. We've talked about too much. It's Jonathan Taylor, just pure chalk, going against a very, very weak Pittsburgh team. I see him as a very, very popular play if, given people are going to stomach the price tag. The other option I have is Brock Bowers.
Yep.
It is queuing up to be his first week healthy in what feels like weeks. And this is going to be a huge boon to that Raiders offense. And we'll see if his return as a real healthy threat helps open up the game a little bit. Nowhere on our doc, I think we mentioned Ashton Genty, but that is someone who could benefit as well.
Yeah.
I like it. He's at 5,000, the cheapest he's been all season. Probably if he has a good game, again, the cheapest he will be all season. I like it. I think other people will see this and be willing to gamble. And like we talked about at the top of the show, high price tag tight ends are going to be kind of where you're going to make your money.
Yep. He's been healthy for one game this season, and he went over 100 yards in that game. So I still think he's probably the most talented tight end we've seen since like Tony Gonzalez. Maybe I guess Gronk is probably a more common,
That's right.
more modern, but I mean, he just can do everything. He gets open at the level of Puka Nacua. He's just constantly fed the ball, and Geno Smith has been absolutely abysmal this year, but it's still better than what they were throwing out last year when Bowers broke rookie records. So I think he's a smash play here and until proven otherwise. And
your chalk, another guy that we've talked about a lot.
Oh yeah.
Rashee Rice.
This is a small sample, so don't look too much into it, but in the last 2 years, Rashee Rice is averaging 22 fantasy points per game, which is 4 points more than any other wide receiver in that time.
That is absurd.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
It's a small sample size, so it is probably going to come back down to earth, but he basically never busts in this current iteration of the Chiefs offense. He is fed targets like it's nobody's business. He's basically Puka Nacua just on the Chiefs, which is arguably better than having Puka Nacua on the Rams because the difference between Mahomes and Stafford is pretty sizable. So he's cheaper than Puka. He's cheaper than Chase. He's cheaper than... I think that might be the only two that he's cheaper than.
Truly, I think that might just be it.
And he projects better than both of them. So
we highlighted him last week. It was just one of the easiest things you could just say. Obviously, like the first playable game, cue him up. He's gonna be great. Back-to-back games of just lighting up the defense. I can see it going again that way as well.
Yep.
All right. Who's your last chalk?
Other chalk, we mentioned him briefly. Kamani Vidal, 6,100, facing the Titans. Pretty much enough said. They can't stop anything. They won't stop anything. He's been good since he got the role. Hassan Haskins might miss this week again, which would even give him a bigger workload. He is a bell cow back as long as Hampton is gone, and he's not priced like a bell cow back. He's only 6,100. He's the same price as DeAndre Swift. I just, I'm not going to say I don't see a way he fails, because I will never say that again after Bijan just absolutely busted last week despite being in the perfect spot. But it'd be very difficult for Vidal to fail. Let's say it that way.
That I agree with on both fronts, between never saying again that this player is going to be a locked and loaded stud. Clearly, we were missing the secret sauce that the Dolphins had against the Falcons. But I think Vidal is just primed and ready to go for a great game, all things considered. All jinxes aside, all curses aside. I do like Vidal a lot. All right, last section before we get to our lineups. It's our top value plays. And I'm curious about your first one. We did talk about him. Is this still considered value at 5,900? This is Michael Pittman Jr.
I mean, we had the conversation. He's the wide receiver 7. What is the difference between him and Nico Collins at this point? Nico Collins is $1,500 more than he is, if I remember correctly. I think he's 74 or maybe 7,300 this week.
Yeah, Nico Collins is 71, but
still, that's $1,200.
Yeah,
and like Pittman's in a better offense. He's very clearly the alpha receiver. He has a safe floor. He gets 6 to 8 targets pretty much every single week except one this year. He's kind of JSN, but there's just more behind him that makes it less sexy. But he's just like very clearly the best receiver in an offense that wants to feed its good players. So at 5,900, I just think Pittman is eternally too cheap right now.
And I think that's also a great point when you think about, especially with the Nico Collins comparison, Pittman's on the field. Nico is not. Nico has missed a bunch of time. Michael Pittman has gutted a lot of, I think last season he was battling through some injuries and kind of a dead season, but this year he stayed healthy. He's on the field. He is reliable. There's been a couple games where the ball just didn't go his way, and that's just, again, JT effect plus getting Tyler Warren and Josh Downs and Alec Pierce the ball. It doesn't matter. He still just comes through. And I do think when you look again at the folks right above him, I do think this is quite a good value. Brian Thomas Jr., 6,200. Drake London, 64. Yeah, Cortland Sutton again, 65. I think truly, Michael Pittman is a value in this case, and I think that's a great call. And then your secondary one, I love when we double up.
Yeah, it is not one player. It really depends, but it is the Chiefs running backs if Pacheco misses. Kareem Hunt is 4,700. He is basically the only true under 5K running back that you could feel comfortable playing. And if Pacheco does miss, he already basically gets all the valuable touches in this offense. He gets all the goal line work. He gets a decent portion of pass protection plays and third downs. He's not going to give you 80 yards. He's not going to be that utilized between the 20s, but he gets a lot of high value touches. And with Pacheco out, he probably will see some of that in between the 20s work. But there is a small chance that they just play Brashard Smith more, that he just takes over Pacheco's role entirely and they keep Hunt in the role that he's had this whole time. And I think Smith is better and more explosive than Pacheco at this point. I think they should have been playing him this much all along. He's a much better pass catcher. He has the same type of athleticism. He doesn't have, the lower body injuries that Pacheco is definitely still not suffering from injury-wise, but certainly not 100% back from, even more than a year removed at this point. And Rashard Smith is 4,200. So he's a perfectly fine stab to take at that price. See if he gets the workload. Definitely pay attention to the news cycle as we get into the weekend. It could be very clear one way or the other on Friday or Saturday that, hey, like this is Hunt's backfield or this is Smith's backfield. So
it's going to be tricky because I definitely see them utilizing Smith more between the 20s.
yeah.
And, Hunt's going to be our red zone guy, and they're just going to try to hammer him home, which is so awful to watch as someone hoping Rashard Smith, becomes the lead role as potentially should, as just the youngest guy, again, the most explosive one. It's definitely feels more due to comfort and more for reliability, I'll call it, between Hunt and Pacheco, that, Smith is getting some, but not all of the work. I get it. It's fine. 6-round rookie, it happens. But again, 4,200, perfect spot to take a dart. Hope he gets a screen pass, takes it to the house. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him getting a lot of work, especially in 2-minute drills, because this team is going to want to score against the Bills.
Yep. And
I mean, obviously it's how they win.
Yeah. And just to remind folks, the Bills' run defense is awful. Like,
it is not good.
They were the first team to give Rico Dowdle 200 yards from scrimmage. Like, they have been absolutely mashed this season. Like, Derrick Henry destroyed them in week 1. They're not good against running backs, and they just lost Ed Oliver for the season, probably. If the Chiefs want to try and run the ball, they're probably going to be able to, regardless of who it is. It's just a question of who is it going to be.
And that's unfortunately just the game we're going to have to play between this two-headed backfield. I looked at value in a weird lens because my first player is Travis Hunter. I'm kind of buying into the combination of coach speak as well as that garbage time, performance against the Rams over in London. I just don't feel like Brian Thomas Jr. is fixing it. He has the yips. He has an issue right now with Trevor Lawrence. There's just something going on. He has this shoulder injury. I think we all kind of saw it when he went for a block and just kind of like hobbled off the field, clearly affecting his ability to catch passes. Travis Hunter is a good athlete. Now, again, kind of like the Chiefs backfield, you need to monitor Travis Hunter's most recent knee injury. He just showed up on the injury report at practice. So hopefully it's all good. Hopefully it's just it's a Thursday, whatever. If he's missing practice on Friday or is limited Friday, we'll reevaluate come Sunday morning.
Yep. I'm big into best ball. I drafted a ton of teams over the summer. My strongest take during best ball season was that I think Travis Hunter was going to become the one on this team, and that Brian Thomas Jr. was going to go back down to a 1B, a T. Higgins type of role. I kind of see it playing out this way so far. I mean, it was probably fake, but there was definitely rumors that they were they were listening to trade offers for BTJ. Like, something is not right with him in this franchise, and he is not fully locked in. And Hunter's the number 2 overall pick for a reason. He has shown it. He is good. Trevor Lawrence is a different story, but that doesn't really matter. I just think Hunter is going to become the alpha on this team, and I think 4,700 is appallingly cheap, especially if this is the game where he cements that.
And to me, against the Raiders,
yeah,
why not? Soft defense, a team that will absolutely give up points.
Yep.
I'm taking my shot there. My other value play is a sad one because we wouldn't be talking about him if it wasn't for a really gruesome injury to Cam Scadaboo. I'm talking about Tyrone Tracy, 5,100. They're going against the San Francisco 49ers. I'm not too concerned because of Tracy's skill set.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that the Giants will be down, I'm confident of that. Tracy does it all. He will get run up the middle for whatever reason because Daboll play calling is questionable at best. But he's a great pass catcher, converted wide receiver to running back. And we saw him do this last year when Singletary went down. He was solid. He came through with a bunch of great fantasy performances. He kind of sputtered down the road because the Giants just didn't have an offense, and he was kind of just figuring it out himself. I am confident / I am okay queuing up, Tyrone Tracy at this price point, especially when I would like to spend up other places, and this allows me to play at least a starting running back, like a for sure starting running back in my lineup at a reasonable price.
Yeah. When I was talking about Kareem Hunt, I almost said he was the only value on the slate. But then I had to clarify that he was the only one under 5K because Tyrone Tracy at 5,100 is a much better value. As you said, he's going to get the lion's share of the work. They seem to want to trade Devin Singletary, even though they need depth. So that's kind of weird. But he did everything that he did with Tommy DeVito as his quarterback last year.
Right.
And he struggled this year because he was playing with Russell Wilson, and now he's playing with Jackson Dart. And Jackson Dart has just completely revitalized this offense despite it just losing pieces left and right. So I like this call. I think he's in a good spot. I think he gets good projectable volume, and he's easily like the best savings play on the slate for sure.
The only other running back I was trying to quickly look up at, he's not in the main slate, was Bam Knight.
Yeah.
I was kind of very curious to see what he'd be priced on, but we're not a showdown show. Well, maybe in the future we'll figure that out. But for now, we're gonna enjoy the main Sunday slate and Tyrone Tracy's ability to hopefully win us some cash. All right, now for our newer segment, but now our new and improved version of the segment. It's our lineup breakdown. Tim and I both have set up a lineup, and we're going to walk through our decisions here and then figure out who are the missing pieces between the two options that we have kind of pre-selected. So without further ado, here we go. Our brand new look. Oh, hey, we're no longer just saying it out loud. We can see it on the screen. People can see what we're talking about here. So we're going to start with my lineup this time around. And at quarterback, I'm looking at Caleb Williams at 5,700. Jonathan Taylor, again, I've decided to pay up for the 3 touchdown possibility. Hopefully, maybe 4. Who knows? Break the slate. Tyrone Tracy, dang it. I was just saying before we recorded and went live, I thought I found all the typos, but I've done it again. Tyrone Tracy Jr., New York Giants running back at 5,100. Rashee Rice, 7,600. Travis Hunter, my value, 4,700. Our last wide receiver, unknown. That's going to be what we're going to figure out here. Colston Loveland, again, I love how low price he is. I think against the Bengals, he's hopefully going to crush. I feel like the game kind of got away with them, away from them being the Chicago Bears, and they kind of had to look towards their main playmakers like Rome and DJ Moore. But he did have a couple plays that I really liked and kind of showed what he could do. So here's hoping that the Bengals let him do that. And then my flex is also a big question mark. And lastly, the Rams against Tyler Shuck and the New Orleans Saints. Please, yes, I happily take this defense against a rookie quarterback. I don't care if he's 26 years old and has played 800 games. The Rams defense should take care of business there. And for the last 2 options, for the last 2 spots, we have 2 options. So option 1, I've decided to go a little wacky with it and flex Brock Bowers at 5,000, and then go back to old reliable from last week, Troy Franklin at 4,900. Hopefully, again, like we talked about with that Houston defense, hopefully Bo Nix looks towards his tertiary targets away from Cortland Sutton and avoids the stronger DB that is Derek Stingley versus I don't even know who's on the other side because it's not CJ Gardner-Johnson anymore. But it's been a while for that. But we're not a defense show. We don't need to know that. The other option, Jameson Williams at 4,800, pure bet on a long ball touchdown against the Minnesota Vikings. It's a divisional game. I think the Lions will absolutely want to come firing. Yeah, also pretty low. Whatever. If we miss, we miss. It's not the end of the world. And then Tajay Spears, like we talked about a little bit earlier. If Tony Pollard misses, Tajay Spears is going to be a real playmaker. He's going to be a real option, a real volume type of guy that could, in a very ugly game, be somewhat relevant. So, Tim, help me out.
I feel like Brock Bowers is easily the best player out of these four, just from a talent perspective. He's going to earn the most targets. He can do the most with those targets. I feel like he is a must play regardless. So then it becomes the question of, is it Troy Franklin that you want to go with, or do you even just take JMO from option 2 and put him in option 1 with Bowers, and you can use that extra 100 to go higher on defense, or just take 100 with you, however you want to play it. But personally, the option of Bowers versus Spears, I feel like Bowers is just so much more projectable volume and probably more upside on top of that, honestly. Like, yes, Spears has had some random 25-ish point games last year, but Bowers can just break everything, even as a flex play. So I think it's definitely the Bowers option. It comes down to, do you believe more in the volume that we somewhat have seen with Troy Franklin, or do you believe in the coach speak of, I think the offensive coordinator for Detroit came out today and was like, basically said that he apologized to Jameson Williams for how uninvolved he's been in the first 8 weeks, and promised him that would change. So you could play into that angle for sure, or you could play into Troy Franklin is the wide receiver 2 in Denver. He's not going to see Derek Stingley. That's going to go to Cortland Sutton. If they're going to throw the ball a lot, it will most likely go to Franklin.
Yeah, and this was a lineup that was really hindered by the fact that I want to play Jonathan Taylor. And this is the moment that we kind of run into when he is so expensive. Yeah. I don't necessarily want to leave $100 on the table, but I think you're right. I think there is merit to just saying, look, Jameson Williams is just way more of a explosive option that at the end of your roster can get you pretty high boom games. And to do that, you will have to, you'll have some leftover cash. I think that's still fine. And to that extent, if I just move away from Jonathan Taylor, maybe I go with someone like, in the 6,000s, like DeAndre Swift or something like that, then this opens up a whole new avenue of what I can do here.
Yeah.
So in this scenario, I really like your take of going with, potentially just fusing the two options, as it does give us a little more, I'll guess, firepower in this lineup. So I do like that a lot between Brock Bowers and Jameson Williams. All right, let's head over to what you got cooking here.
Alrighty. Well, right off the bat, I have question marks at quarterback, so we'll get back to that. I have Christian McCaffrey for 8,800, Kamani Vidal for 6,300, Michael Pittman Jr. at 5,900. Been talking him up all day. Going cheap to afford all of this, going with Chimere DK for the Titans at 3,900. He's had good volume the last 2 weeks. We're just going to hope it continues this week. Puka Nacua, fresh off the injury, fully healthy. He's back. He was breaking the wide receiver position before he got hurt. I don't see a reason why that would be different coming off injury. He's only 8,500. He's not even the most expensive wide receiver. So he was a must play to me. I had to go real gross at tight end to make all of this fit, but we're going to go with Juwan Johnson at 3,200 for the Saints. It was a very limited sample size, but Tyler Shuck did seem to target Johnson pretty frequently when he came in the game last week. The Rams are a good defense, but they're not necessarily the type of defense that will just shut down the tight end position and shut down all receiving options. So Johnson could be the safety blanket if Shuck doesn't want to look Kamara's way. At flex, I have the other question marks that we'll get to. And then at defense, it's gross, but it's cheap. I'm going with the Giants at 2,400. The 49ers offense is so banged up that it's just it might be Mac Jones again this week, even though we've been hoping it's been Brock Purdy for the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's probably Mac Jones again.
And Mac Jones was weird to say surprisingly bad last week. So maybe he is dealing with a lot more injuries than he may even realize and like to acknowledge.
Yep.
But let's look at your options here, because the first one makes me giggle quite a bit. And I want to know why. I want to know what your thought behind Geno Smith is.
Well, we sadly have crossed our options.
Oh, I did. Oh, no. All right, so read across the top for our friends at home.
As much as I would love to play Daniel Jones at wide receiver, I cannot. Option 1 is disgusting at quarterback. It's Geno Smith at 4,600. Paired with Drake London at 6,400. Option 2 is somewhat reversed. We go much better at quarterback with Daniel Jones to stack with Michael Pittman Jr. And I also go Jameson Williams at 4,800 to fill out the wide receiver room. I picked Geno Smith. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I'm going to ask that question. I was going to say I am so curious as the Geno Smith thought process here.
They're off the bye. Sometimes teams just figure it out when they have a bye week. This is a veteran coaching staff that, even though they seem to be making silly decisions, they also know how to produce winning teams. Pete Carroll has been successful for decades at this point. Chip Kelly has produced many good offenses in his coaching career in the NFL. Something just wasn't working with Geno Smith. I mean, not having Brock Bowers is certainly a big part of it, and not really having a invested playing as hard as Jacoby Myers is certainly part of it. I'm curious to see how this looks with Brock Bowers back, with everyone in the receiving core healthy. They have added the illustrious career of Tyler Lockett to their receiving core now.
The missing piece, the missing link.
Yeah. And he's 4,600 is kind of the main thing. Is he is a bottom of the barrel type value at quarterback, which if you want to play players like CMC and Puka and Jonathan Taylor, sometimes you may have to go this route at quarterback. And I am just kind of interested to see if Geno can come out of the bye, and he doesn't have to put up 30, but give me 18 to 22 points. That's a great score for a $4,600 quarterback.
And to that end, they are playing Jacksonville,
who
was most recently carved up, through in a passing attack. Now, I say that. However, the Las Vegas Raiders are not the Los Angeles Rams. They do not have the same talent on that team. But the Jacksonville defense looked a lot stronger previously. they've started to feel more vulnerable and more, manageable for offenses. Like you said, post bye, they have extra time to prep. There is a world where this team kind of figures it out, settles in, that you can see that they're already trying to make changes. Dante Thornton has kind of disappeared. Yeah, I'm not really sure what their hope is in terms of just like adding with Tyler Lockett. Maybe it really is just the Geno Smith mind meld with Lockett just to keep the chains moving. I can see a world where this works. The sticker shock is the one that really gets me.
Oh yeah.
And then Drake London, obviously he's a stud. You're not worried about his injury or the Penix injury?
They both sound like they're going to play. I just can't really quit Drake London. I feel like he's more talent. He's more talented than his price tag usually shows, and every time I fade him is when he goes for 35. So I kind of am trying to not fade him to see if I can actually capitalize on one of those 35-point weeks. I believe that Michael Pittman Jr. is a better play, but he's already in this lineup. So, and I don't really like anyone else in this price range at either position. So for me, it was like London is a clear value if he hits his ceiling at this price point. He will definitely get targets if he plays. It's really just a matter of, does he get a touchdown? Does he get 2 touchdowns? Or does he just go 6 for 70 and you get an average week out of him?
It's going to be tough. He is going against the Patriots this week. And if there's any concern with Penix, I think it's going to be a tricky one for the Falcons to rely on the passing game. I think because you can run pretty successfully on the Patriots. And again, Bijan should have a good game, but yet you never know.
Yeah. I will say if Penix does not play, then I will not be playing Drake London at this price.
No redemption game for Kirk O'Chains. You had enough.
Goodness, I have never seen a quarterback look so immobile and just unable to put any power in a throw or avoid any pressure whatsoever. Like we joke about Aaron Rodgers, but he looks vastly better in the pocket compared to what Kirk Cousins put out.
It's a bummer. It's like really a bummer considering what he's been able to do all these years. And it does just show you that the Achilles injury is no joke. The just like age, maybe whatever Rodgers does, his darkness retreats, whatever. Clearly, something's working over there that Kirk is missing out on. So maybe the Coles cash isn't helping him out. I really like your option 2, your bottom option in this my flipped up scenario here. Daniel Jones, and I don't want to scare anybody listening, is playing like an MVP quarterback. He is doing everything he needs to do to win games and to really operate this offense to the success that it is showing, right? Like you don't get this type of production from JT if everyone knows the QB's bad and they're stacking the box. We've seen it. We saw it last year with Anthony Richardson / Joe Flacco.
Yep.
If he can't throw over the top, we don't get this from Jonathan Taylor. And we are really seeing just a more confident and truly, I guess like competent version of Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
And it should scare you because this isn't this is not our Danny Dimes anymore. This is truly Indiana Jones. And we talked about Jameson Williams already, whether it's coach speak or, just he's due, the magic of it's been too long. I just like it as a lottery ticket. And I think against the Vikings, they'll probably want to see if they can test the Vikings defense is a run funnel that, their pass defense is very good. We'll see if they can get by them. I'm confident that Dan Cable and company are going to try because they are stubborn. They want to show you that they're going to beat you any way possible and beat you over the head. Yeah, I think I am just concerned about Drake London and the overall coin flippy nature of the Falcons.
Yeah. And honestly, something that never crossed my mind until we were talking through this, but I could also just play Travis Hunter at 4,700 instead of JMO. And
yeah, you could.
That feels honestly way better, especially paired with Daniel Jones.
And, again, as we get closer to the weekend, like, I think that truly the best thing, if you're not already doing this in DFS, you should be right up until 11 o'clock, right until 12 o'clock Eastern. I know everyone's at different time zones, but if you can, like half an hour before, just double check all of the injury reports, right? Just double check everything that's kind of been around so that you can swap in Travis Hunter for, BTJ, right? Maybe he is still hurt for that shoulder injury. Drake London is hurt. Get him out of there. Pop in someone else, I do think there's a lot of merit here for a Daniel Jones, Travis Hunter. I mean, and Jameis Williams. I do think all this can make you a few bucks this weekend. Yeah. Hopefully a lot of bucks.
Hopefully.
All right. Any last words on our lineups here? I'll quickly flip back over to yours.
I really don't want to play Juwan Johnson. I really wanted that to be Brock Bowers. I can't find a way. Like, I would have to play Geno Smith and Travis Hunter in order to get, and even then I don't think I can afford Brock Bowers at that point. I think it has to be someone cheaper. But I don't like playing Juwan Johnson, and I think Colston Loveland is a good shout, but kind of a similar shout of there's a path, but it feels thin compared to just the points you're getting if you spend up another $1,000. Back to what we talked about to open the show, it's just I just don't see a good punt tight end where I feel I can get 80% of what a top tight end is giving this week, as I just don't think you can anymore.
Yeah. You're not interested in Chigakonkwo at the same price?
No. I started this lineup when I first built it with Gunnar Helm at 2,900 because but again, the worst offense in football from a quarterback that's not even throwing the ball that efficiently. There's very little touchdown equity. You're just praying he scores a touchdown because otherwise you're getting 5 points. And it just feels bad.
It feels pretty atrocious, truly. And I was jokingly going to say, oh, why not Hunter Long, the new starter for the Jacksonville Jaguars? Don't do that.
No.
Don't. Just a big old warning sign. Don't. Truly, if you're going to gamble on any of these 2,500 tight ends, just don't.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to, get a giggle out of your league mates here. Don't go so far down. Don't pick. Wow, Luke Musgrave is 2,500. That's crazy. Wow, a couple years ago.
I know.
Kind of someone, but quick look at mine. Yeah, this is just tough. I don't think I'm playing this lineup. Full disclosure, this is just this is a lineup that I really wanted to see how cohesive it would be if we went with Jonathan Taylor in this format. You are punished, truly, especially if you want to play someone as as expensive as Rashee Rice.
He's because not now expensive. He's pricey, but he's not. It's not Puka.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that. It's not crazy, and yet, you are really truly feeling the weight of the Jonathan Taylor price increase. And
yep.
if you moved away from Rashid Rice. Say you pick someone that's at 5,600, and so you can now spread that money around to, instead of Travis Hunter, it's someone at the 5,700 range, and maybe you didn't like your tight end. Maybe now instead of Colton Loveland, you can play Sam Laporta. That's probably something you really want to think about. That's probably something you really want to look towards, because this is not quite getting there. And, instead of Jonathan Taylor, you do pick someone at the 6K range. Yeah, now you're really cooking. And now you can really start thinking about players that can give you more reliability in these spots.
Yeah.
So just an example for those who aren't using optimizers, because obviously you can figure this all out if you take them out optimizer and just do it all. But I think this is a fun practice. I think it's fun to see in real time, and then you'd be like, yep, that sucks. Let's avoid this. I don't want to be playing Juwan Johnson, really. I don't want to be playing, Colson Loveland and Caleb Williams after an absolute stinker of a game. But it's fun. We're out here.
It is.
Alrighty. That is going to do it for us today. Any last parting thoughts for our friends at home?
It feels like DFS is getting harder and harder every week. Like, it feels like there's less edges. It feels like every play you think is smart, like 50% of the field also thinks is smart, and then you're just back at square one. So, as much as I like projections and as much as I like optimizers and all that kind of stuff, I do think that we're starting to come back around full circle with DFS of like, sometimes you just have to know ball. Sometimes you just have to tell the computer, no, I actually know better than you right now. Like, we had this discussion for the last several weeks of just like, please stop playing Jacoby Myers. Like, please stop. His projection is wrong. It doesn't matter that they don't have passing volume, because the passing volume is just not going to him anyways. Like, I think you need to look for your edges in that way of, if you have conviction on a player or on a game environment, or on, hey, there's no one, if you were in on the Jets last week, like, you probably made some money with Breece Hall and Justin Fields, and like almost no one was in on the Jets last week, and rightfully so. But sometimes you just kind of have to plug your nose and be okay with some disgusting plays, it feels like, this year.
And I don't think it's going to get any better. I think it's going to slowly but surely, as a show about DFS, there's more information out there than ever, truly. And everyone's listening to different folks. Listen to us on this one. Hey, just go for it. Whatever. Why not? Why not just throw in Travis Hunter? Why not just, hey, you're gonna just battle between Chuba and Rico? Sure, why not? Play them both. Don't actually do that, please. don't play both. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I really, really like just the short and sweet of it. It's just sometimes you just know, truly, like, you just know this dude's gonna go off. Things are pointing that direction, and the price is right.
Yep.
So again, that's gonna do it for us this evening. Thank you all for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure again. He's Tim. I'm Brian. We're here at Fantasy Now Plus. Again, join the Discord. Link's gonna be down below, and we will see you next week on the next episode of Get Tilted. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.